All right, we going. All right, family, this is the to be continued from the first chapter of the conversation with Willie D and Marquez Burton concerning government assistance, SNAP benefits for blacks, poverty, dating, all type of things we're talking about. I'm gonna go back about. What should I go back about? 10 seconds. Went back a little bit just so we can, if you caught the end of part one, we can continue on to part two with a little refresher and get right into the topics, what we're talking about. Play button. Volume. The volume.
Who will honor those children. And we'll see women make rational decisions. And women are rational. Oh, you better believe it. Because they want to fill out that application to get that EBT and that Section 8 and all those safety nets that they know are there. But when they know those safety nets are not there, they will make the rational decision to deal with men who are honest, honorable, loyal, and responsible. And then we will have
rather than dealing with Pookie and Ray Ray, because you know that even if it don't work out, you got that safety net from Uncle Sam.
And the truth is, the government is not our father. The government is not our friend. In fact, the government is largely the reason that black people were disenfranchised for a long time. They still owe you 40 acres and a mule.
You got now acre and now mule.
You think that this EBT is your form of petty reparations? No, it's your form of prison. And what's more is they're not giving this to the poor people to help the poor people. You know who's benefiting off of that? It's your local grocery store that gets to rely on the fact that they know the government is giving you spending power to come give to them. And those are the things that I find to be disturbing, and though I might have...
That's why I fuck with Devon with Burton is, he's very business savvy. You know what I mean? This is not about not understanding or not being sensitive to the black plight. This is about just teaching, brothers and sisters how to be business savvy. And the reality of it is these government assistance handouts, these are from savvy businessmen. They're paying you to get out the way. They're paying you to not compete. The little teenage little SNAP, EBT, 1,000, whatever it is a month in food, they're paying you to get relying on that so that it lulls you to sleep and you don't compete with them in the big financial world. You know what I'm saying? It's a chain of comfort. 3 chains of comfort are low wages or EBT, consumerism, and debt. And so in a country in the West that has claims to be rid of slavery, the powerful owners of this world, of this country, have just figured out how to enact slavery in very clever, intelligent, I gotta give it to them, intelligent ways to keep you comfortable in slavery. And this is one of the ways that they keep blacks out the way, is by throwing them crumbs and nickels and getting them and having the men incarcerated and the women dependent on government assistance. Let's keep rolling.
A perspective that is uncommon. Everything that I say, I try to live out. So I just got 62 acres in Georgia, and I've invited folks to come on, take 2 acres. We're teaching folks how to have some chickens, have some cows.
Bird
plantation, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, Marquez. Here's the thing, man.
Yeah. Willie D gonna disagree.
Just said, while it does make sense, it absolutely makes sense. People without moral flexibility scares the hell out of me. Because that, in my opinion, as a human being, there has to be some flexibility there. For example, we know that stealing is wrong. Stealing, taking somebody else's stuff is wrong as hell.
That's right.
But man, if somebody is hungry and they go into the store and they steal some lunch meat, I'm not about, look, I gotta look at this particular situation as an individual. How many times have you stolen lunch meat? Out of the store. Yeah. How many times have you been arrested for the same thing? Like, is this your first time doing this? Is this your first time doing this? And this is the best thing that you come up with was to steal this lunch meat. Okay, I know that you're a 2-time felon already. Right. And 3 strikes you're out. Mm-hmm. But I'm not finna send no man to jail for 20 years for stealing some lunch meat. Sure. So I'm gonna try to help figure this thing out. And this is part of our job as public officials, right? Yes. It would be part of my job as a public official to try to figure out a reasonable way for this person to maintain, his dignity, right? Absolutely. And it wouldn't be a wise thing to just lock up people every time for every little petty thing, right? Right. So my thing is this. So the reason why I mentioned that is because I was that child of a single mother of 5.
You were still?
Yeah.
All right.
I was that child, and if not, I know my mama got up and worked her butt off. Yeah, she made mistakes. Absolutely, sure. She made some mistakes. She did make some mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But she still continued to work. She got up every day, 5 days a week, and went out there and worked for the HISD. Yes. Right? Raising 5 kids. Yep, she did it. She's to blame. You know what I'm saying? It's her responsibility. Yes. Mm-hmm. But she could only earn so much money with the education that she had.
That's right.
Right? So, had it not been for the government subsidizing, instead of, having, 2 meals a day, we probably would have been down to 1 meal a day. Sure. And some days, no meals. So my thing is that, like, there has to be some type of way to say, okay, I get you. We're gonna work with you some kind of way, like, this is not an ideal situation. We don't want you to be dependent on the government. We don't want to be taking care of you for life. We don't want you to be on this till your kids age out. Yes. But there has to be something other than, well, shit, you made a mistake, live with it. Right. There has to be something other than
especially in America. In fact, if you look at charitable giving in America, like top of the world, especially our religious communities, and black people have the highest level of religiosity of any community. I could even see this without the data when I used to teach in Baltimore, Maryland, which is an overwhelmingly black city, very black. And I can't tell you how disturbed I would be when I would walk to school on foot. You walk past abandonments, looks like a third world bombed out kind of place.
Did you say abandonment?
Abandonments.
I never heard that.
Well, dig this. I mean, when it's that common, people put a name on it, right?
Wow.
And you have entire blocks that look like Iraq. And you'll walk by 3 churches before you get to that school, at least 3 churches. You walk by God knows how many crackheads. You walk by how many women selling their bodies, whether they're of age to do so or not. So the religiosity is there. And remember where we come from as black people. Once enslavement ended in the formal sense, it resumed in the prisons. But once it ended in the formal sense and we go into Reconstruction and then Jim Crow, you think they had all these programs to help us out? Nah, but we still made it though. You look at segregation. Turns out that the per capita income of black people were better off during segregation for a number of reasons. There's a great article in the LA Times, circa 2008, and the article talked about the fact that during segregation, it forced the black lawyer or the black doctor to live in the same neighborhood as the black janitor. Yeah. Which means that the children of the black janitor could see a real life example of a doctor or an attorney, a professional, someone who's bright, someone who's sophisticated and experienced. And those things have impact. And so what
he's talking about is we were pressured to make the best out of segregation. Segregation wasn't good, but because we had to make diamonds out of nothing, right? We were better economically. We stuck together better economically, then when integration came along, which was supposed to be some big accomplishment, the only thing that was realized was that, hey, we can integrate black dollars and still keep them at the bottom of the totem pole. One of the smartest things Martin Luther King did was the bus boycott. And he realized that if you affect the economy of the enslaver, they'll be forced to come to the negotiating table. It wasn't because he thought that the people in Alabama was just going to get a change of heart and want to have blacks integrated, but they realized after 6 months, a year and a half, black people doing for themselves, traveling and carpooling for themselves, that they were losing money. That's when it kicked them in the nuts. They realized they were losing money off the bus boycott. And that's the only time you bring massa or the owners of this nation to the table is when they lose money. A billionaire can't stand to be a multimillionaire. So if you boycott and affect the money, then you will get their attention. If for no other reason than that, that's the weakness. But what he's saying is, yeah, we were segregated, but we were better. We had more leverage because we worked together. And then that was slowly chipped away, kind of sort of during, I guess it was an unintended cause of integration. Integration is because we got integrated, our money got integrated, and then it got swallowed up by the already wealthy majority. Until now, our money is 1/8, the family value of our majority counterparts, because our money and our economy that we were building all of a sudden got swallowed up by larger corporations, and next thing you know, all our shit just got divvied up. So it was basically an acquisition more so than an integration.
Us realize is that what is a government essentially? Just like in simple terms, what would you call a government?
What would I call a government? Non-performative.
All right, yeah, I hear you on that. But at the end of the day, it's like an organized group of people that are supposed to provide for the common good.
And I think that was really nicely put.
Yeah.
Because I think when you say organized, I think more like organized crime.
Well, that's what it's behaving as currently, but that's not what it's supposed to be. And so what I say is we take our dollars out of that tax system, because what we think the government is, they're feeding back the dollars we gave them. Let us keep our dollars. We will regulate our own affairs here. And the gap that you talked about, when you have a mother who has 5 children and they have to survive, that's where you have civil society, which is to say, gentlemen like you, gentlemen like myself, theoretically, you've been rational enough in allocating your capitals, whether it's time, emotion, your talents, and your money, that you're able to rise up. You're an efficient allocator of capital, which is to say, if you observe something in your community, in your tribe, you would allocate capital to help or to fix it in their civil society, especially churches. Churches are well known for philanthropy and community service, and that's what fills the gap. But what we must stop doing is believing so deeply in black inferiority and white supremacy that we think that we cannot do for ourselves. That's a very dangerous idea. And so what I'm proposing is not that we leave these people to the wolves. What I'm proposing is that we allow the wise men, the elders, the successful men in our tribe, we take care of ours, they take care of theirs, you take care of yours, and we'll be fine. And what will happen is that there will be a different level of shame of making those poor decisions where you're in a house with no man, or you decide to have more children than you can afford, and it will reorient our values and our foci. I'm telling you, I grew up in a
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Like I said, that reorientation, that reintroduction of shame. We live in a time where there's no shame about nothing, and what we're learning is without some level of shame or inward looking at your behavior, you get chaos, you get anarchy. I don't have to speak to how anarchist our country is right now. We got people of different orientations. We got people that are binary, non-binary. They just decide they don't even have to pick a sex. I mean, we got buffoonery. We got anarchy because of the fact that we abandon discipline and we abandon the shame that comes with bad decisions. Don't judge nobody. Don't judge anybody. But you see that that's actually harmful to a society, not helpful. It is rational and logical within due bounds to judge or to shun certain behaviors. I'm not voting that we stone people, but we ought to not make it so okay to be wrong or to do wrong that nobody has any repercussions for their behavior.
The poorest kid in the ghetto. Mostly, I kept getting evicted. It's mostly because, you know, when your parents have a habit, even if they got the Section 8, they still ain't gonna pay that $15 that they gotta pay. And so I've seen it from the very bottom. And I know that if black kids in the ghetto can still afford Jordans, and I know because I got made fun of because I ain't had none. So I know everybody else had them, right? If they can still afford to smoke marijuana, if my mom could afford to have a habit, and my mom's a lovely woman, she got swept up in the 1980s, she's not the only one, right? So if all those things are still affordable, we know that there's a little bit of give. And we know that there's a lot of churches, especially here in the South, that can pick up that slack. If you can give 10% to your church, the question is, what you giving back? The problem is the churches ain't gave back enough. And many of them have failed, not only the churches, the mosques as well. And so I think that we need to truly believe in ourselves and do for ourselves. And I speak directly of capitalism. A lot of black folks are like, oh, capitalism doesn't work. No, it works. You need to understand it. You know, it's like the girl who can't dance. She blames the DJ. No, baby, the DJ is spinning them records. You heard me? He playing that stuff. You can't dance. You just need to learn how to dance.
We talk a lot, not just me and you, but people in general talk a lot about how women allow the government to play them and trick them out of position with their husbands and the father of their children. But, you know, there's two sides to every coin, and there takes two to tango. You know, we were forced out of the house because otherwise the woman wouldn't have been able to get the benefits. But we didn't have to leave. A lot of us left. Some of us stayed, though.
Sure.
And those who stayed, salute, they don't get enough credit.
Right.
They say, you know what, I'm staying. The woman said, we riding this out together. Goddamn, if we sink, we're going to sink together. All of us. But many more people, you know, they were desperate and they fell for the okie doke, not realizing the damage that was going to be done long term to our families. So what type of responsibility does the man bear in, you know, the degradation of the black community, you know, and the destruction of our communities?
Good question, and the women love this particular question, you heard me, because this is where they get to like, no, it's really that. And it's complex because it's 100% the man's fault. But when things go wrong, the woman suffers at a greater level. People will ask me, Marquette, why do you talk about female promiscuity so much? I say because if I'm promiscuous and the woman is promiscuous and she gets left with 4 kids that maybe they're mine, I go off and start a whole new life. You heard me? Like from scratch. Find a younger woman, better looking woman, smarter woman, wealthier woman, and just act like that never happened. Whereas the woman generally doesn't do that. She has to live with the bad decisions that she made and the man made. So when I discourage promiscuity in the females, because you're going to suffer at a greater level. And chemically, the oxytocin that's released in the body from that pregnancy is going to bind you with that child. You might be pregnant with that child and like you can feel life within your body and the child is being nourished from your body. You're connected at a great level. Meanwhile, this is in the club right now. You hear me? Lit. You're trying to see what he can see for the night. So it's a totally different reality. And the problem is that black women really are liberal white women. So they're just the acolytes of liberal white women. So they're living out liberal white woman ideology, thinking and behaving as though you're the same as the man when really you're not. The consequences are wildly different. You're going to age different. Your options on the marketplace of dating and marriage are...
I'm going to stop right there because we don't talk about that enough. You know, whether we're different or not, we have to understand the day and night contrast of our biology, our biological clock. We are going to age differently. You know what I mean? As men and women, testosterone, estrogen, muscle density, skeletal bone. We're gonna age differently. So you know, all sorts of things are going to, you know, our ability to procreate twice as long as the female. You know, so that's going to leave us more options as we age and get older, because we'll still be able to produce family at a later age. So that's one thing that doesn't make us equivalent. So even if we just go down to things like age and development, we are not the same, and it's better to understand the pros and cons and advantages and disadvantages of being a woman rather than trying to live identically as men do, career-wise, you know, promiscuity-wise, and all of that stuff, because there's different consequences, because we're on totally different timelines on this planet.
Different. And the fact of the matter is, black women, they become educated, and which is to say they go to university and they become more like liberal white women. And they have this silly ideology of like, I'm going to be independent. It's like, love, you don't have the same history as the white woman. When the slave master was dominating, I trust he was dominating the woman as well. And he was a real patriarch over time. When we were here in the hells of North America enslaved, you weren't getting dominated by the black man.
We didn't have the same experience as the white counterpart.
When you came out of slavery, were you being dominated, you know, for decades on end by the black man? No, the black man was barely in control of himself. He wasn't dominant in the society. And what do you mean you want to get out and be independent? Were you a homemaker? Were you a stay-at-home mom? Probably not, because black people mostly never had incomes like that to sustain that life model at large scale. So you're basically rebelling against something that never was real in your life. And this is why I think people hate me so much, is because I have the nerve to come out with new ideas. Most of what you'll hear black women in particular say is something you heard a white woman say to them at university. They're just regurgitating it.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you some pushback on.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll give you some pushback.
Yeah. Before he pushes back, that's exactly right. You know, it's kind of like being at, you know, we all play cards and dominoes, and it's kind of like you identify a partner of yours in a card game playing like you playing, but they not playing what's in their hand. You know what I mean? It's like, are you playing what's in your hand, or are you just mimicking what I'm doing? And it's much like what happened with this a feminist type of deal with black women acting like liberal whites. Is liberal white women, is the situations that liberal white women were rebelling against weren't even the same situations that we were dealing with as blacks. Yet you see an identical rebellion from all the women, black and white. Not even playing what's in your own hand to win the game, to win at your game. Just kind of emulating what other people are doing. And that's much like the feminist movement itself, is they want to emulate what they think men are doing instead of mastering what cards they have to play.
On the generalization, okay, because you make the generalization about black women a lot, a whole lot, right? And a lot of what you say, don't get me wrong, I actually agree with a lot of what you say.
You're a wise man.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you say. At the same time, the generalizations, I always say, can be dangerous, because there are people who make generalizations about black men that we know are not true. And I know that, and you know, and I know you're not talking about all black women. No. But when people hear you say, when black women, you know, people, you know, they think, I'm talking about the people who suffer from cognitive dissonance, right? Okay. They go like, oh, he's talking about all black women, and I'm not like that, because I'm sure there's a black woman listening right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not like that, and I'm not like that. But you're saying, is there a particular group of black women that you think of when you say black women?
I'm glad you said that, and I'm very fortunate to have a lot of really impressive black women around me. Wealthy, successful black women, obedient, good listeners, very helpful. They really want to play their role. So that's my good fortune. When I'm speaking of black women generally, I'm talking about things we need to remedy. So you're right, it would be nice if I would balance it with praise and acknowledgement. They're very educated. Even myself, I was raised by a single mother. Of course, she had a lot of help and did have a stepfather, and she came from a big family because families, women used to have kids back then, right? So my grandmother had 9 children, so I had a lot of uncles. But my mother, if you judge by the product, I say she did all right.
They still have plenty of kids. They just, instead of having the kids within the framework of family with one man, they have a bunch of different kids with a bunch of different niggas. They still having the kids. The kids ain't the problem. It's figuring out who daddy belong to who.
Appreciate that. But there are a great many struggles that she endured that I think probably we don't want to see repeated. And when I say black women, I'm speaking to a majority. So that means that a generalization would be appropriate and sensible. So if you look at the fact that 70% of black families are illegitimate, that's the majority. So the majority of black women are making poor selection decisions with regards to the men they allow to impregnate them. And these are the times that they carry the child to term. Many times they're aborting the child. So the decision making is very bad. Female intuition is not a real thing. But the only reason I discuss it is not to disparage black women. I discuss it because you cannot route your way to an outcome or to a goal or destination unless you know where you are. And many of us are lost, and we don't know where we are. And I'm definitely taking an iron fist to the situation because we're in such a bad, low place.
Terrible.
Like you may have seen a clip with Suki Hana in the United Kingdom, and she was walking around like, I want my fill in the blank stretched. I'm gonna eat an N-word's backside.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so she said
just ratchet. I'm not even gonna go into Suki Hana and the Suki Hana types, the Cardi B types, the Sexy Red type. Just a total embarrassment.
People were looking at her like, word? And then when you correct a black woman, they'll say, again, you have to read the subtext. When you correct the black woman, so it suggests that you're correcting the black woman who needs correction. There are many of them that are in pocket. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But when you correct an unruly one, they'll say, well, why are you always minding our business? Because you are my business. If I'm your protector, if we are a natural pair, the black man and the black woman, you didn't show up here independent. We're a natural pair. You are my business. I am your protector, and I am your leader, and I will manage you. And that's how it has to be. We really got to go Taliban out here. It's that time.
Is that something that should be more in-house or something that you should take a megaphone to? Because not only are the black women who need to be corrected are listening to that message. Mm-hmm. The people out there who stereotype black women on a daily basis and go, yeah, see, even the black man is saying it. And Marquette is an educated black man, and even he's saying it. And he's not just talking shit, he's backing it up with data and facts. Yes. So that could easily get into the ear of the wrong person and then it could actually encourage them to disparage black women. Do you ever worry about? I don't like to say worry because men really don't worry. Okay. We concerned about things, we don't worry. But does it ever concern you that message is landing on the ears of uncivilized mutts?
You know what? My good fortune is that I was raised by black folks who mostly love being black. My grandmother was a very dark-skinned woman from Lone Oak, Arkansas. She grew up picking cotton. Probably till about the 5th grade, I thought she was an actual slave. You hear me? I thought she was like a free slave. But I said, no, for real. One day I came home like, Grandma, you wasn't no slave. She was like, but
Can you explain why you thought that she was a slave?
So my grandmother, and one of the reasons I think that I make sense when I speak, one of the reasons that I have character and I know who I am, is because people took out the time to invest in me as a child. My grandmother was retired. She walked me to school every day. You know how much time you have to talk to a child when you walked into school, then you walked them home from school? How was your day? How did you feel? What happened? Probably about 35-minute walk. Each way.
Each way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you have time to do that, it builds up the self-esteem in the child. It also infuses your values in the child, which is why my values are old world values, because they came from a woman who came from the old world. But anyway, she would tell me, especially when you complain, boy, when I was your age, I was picking cotton on my daddy's farm. And just in your mind, because you learn all this stuff about slavery, picking cotton, no, you was a slave. And that's pretty much how she lived. She said, I dropped out of school in the 3rd grade to pick cotton for my father. And she did, this is a fact. And even with her low level of education, she was still able to buy a house in San Diego, had 9 kids, raised them just fine. Just fine, major air quotes. We get into that another time. But point is, what? When we talk about what other people are thinking when they look at us, when they listen to us, the Black American is the most influential ethnic group on the planet Earth. They're always going to watch us. They're always going to emulate us. They're going to want to dance like Michael Jackson. They're going to want to dunk the ball like Michael Jordan. You hear me? Name any of the Michaels. We're legendary. They're always going to watch us. I tell you what, I don't care what they think. I don't care what a white man or woman has to say about me or my culture. I don't care what Latinos or Asians or Arabs have to say about me or my culture.
You know, I feel them because, you know, we're concerned about what we're doing. If the shoe fit, wear it. If I'm speaking to you in your situation and you know it needs correction, wear it. Don't worry about, oh man, you shouldn't have said that around the others. The way some of the shit you say out your mouth already gives us the impression that we ignorant, that we broke, that we don't understand finances, the way we spend money, the way we constantly take our wealth and spend it on on European brands. So they already think we're stupid. So we might as well speak to the issues that we need to fix openly and freely to one another. You know what I mean? And hopefully, you know, the wrong people ain't eavesdropping. And if they ain't going to be part of the solution, fuck them.
We're going to lay down law here. We're going to establish order among our people. We're going to state what the standard is, and we're going to stigmatize deviation from the standard. And when everybody gets on track, it's not going to be about what anybody says. It's going to be about the demonstrated competence. It's going to be about the goods being delivered. So they might say, oh, he has a harsh word for this or that person. But one thing, if you actually check my background, everything that I talk bad about, I also invest in. I might talk reckless about single mothers because I know it's a bad state. I also donate to a church that supports single mothers with children in Pasadena, California. Right? Everything that I talk about, I put in work on.
That's integrity.
Because
I like that.
And that's why I don't mind people being critical, but my only question is, well, what are you doing about it? So like when Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes want to say something about black people, I'm like, hold on one second, Scrap. What do you do for black people? Oh, nothing? Shut up then.
Right.
Shut up then. I'll talk about mine because I'm actually doing the work. If you're not doing the work, be silent. And I don't want to hear people like, oh, you know, I'm lobbying for this law or this policy. No, hell no. Get on the ground with it. Go help a person, help a human. So what other people say about us, it doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why. The people who like you, they're going to be understanding and forgiving. The people who don't like you, doesn't matter what you did or what you said. They're always going to look down on it. You know?
So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're on the same page right there because I absolutely feel the same way. My attitude towards them is fuck them because they want to have an excuse anyway to not like us. They want to, if they already jump to if they hear you saying something disparaging about black women, and they jump on it and go like, yeah, you know, oh, they ain't nothing, da da da. They already was thinking that anyway.
Guaranteed.
And had you not said it, they still would have been thinking that.
That's a fact.
So fuck them anyway. So yeah, we're on the same page with that, man. I really don't give a damn what they think because in order for them to have that type of mentality and that thought process in the first place, that means they already got something against me.
Right.
You did.
You didn't plant the seed on that. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Man, What are your thoughts about, you know, black males in regards to black men reimagining themselves since the advent of social media? You know, and specifically reimagining their self-worth. And what do you think is some of the biggest misconceptions that black males have about, you know, their lot in life?
I do also want to state for the record that people think like, oh, you talk about negative about women. Like, nah, I be across the board with mine. You know, people don't do their research. But with regards to black men, and I'll speak about black culture as well briefly. Again, I said Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson's, any of that. Like, we're very influential. But it used to be that we organically create culture in our neighborhood amongst ourselves, and then the culture gets commercialized, and then it gets projected onto the television. You can see it on MTV and BET, which is not black owned apparently, and you can see it and learn about it, but it's reflecting what's in the neighborhood. And others will learn about us from the television. I remember the first time I met some Germans, and they came to the United States, and they said, Marquette, I don't understand. Where are all of the black people? I was like, what do you mean? He said, I see you guys so much on television, Will Smith, so many TV show, but in your country, it is not many black people here. They didn't realize that we're just that 10% of the population because our influence is so great. Yeah. Now, I say all that to say this. It used to be black people have organic, real culture. It gets commercialized and then projected out to the world. People, the outsiders, learn about us from the media, good or bad. Now, Netflix produces images of black people, how the white liberals would want us to behave. It's behavior modification. And then they push the imagery down to the neighborhoods, down to us, the consumers. And black people are the worst in terms of nomophobia, phone addiction, and social media consumption. We're unproductive and idlers. So they push images of us back to us, and then they tell us who we are. We're not telling them
reverse the psychology on.
They're telling us who we are, and that's where you got a Lil Nas X from. Because if you remember hip-hop, and you're a rapper, you created hip-hop history. I remember DMX, I remember, you watch a good battle after the battle, Cat use the F word, and not to say that I support any of this kind of behavior, but it was hyper masculine. It's embedded in the culture. People say no homo. There's a certain positioning and posture of the black male.
Now identity. You got rappers that think it's cool to dress in purses and to have purses and dresses. You know what I'm saying? So definitely feminized, or if not all the way gay, do the homemade, do the homemade, do the homemade.
In consciousness. Then how did Lil Nas X get created? Because I don't know in what neighborhood it was like, I want
to see thug to be gay
in pink Ugg boots doing a music video in a jailhouse. Like, that's what I want to see right now. So that was a creation at the level of the Netflix and the producer class. It's a certain group of people who are not black, or some of them are like
influencing
they are black
our community instead of the other way around.
You didn't tell me not to say certain things before this. I'm gonna just say what it is. But like, we have people like Tyler Perry's, and they create certain characters in the media, and the black women support with their dollars and their talk. And they blow up these images, and then those images are projected back down to us, and then we think things are acceptable that are not acceptable. How is it the population that had the highest level of religiosity is now being penetrated by the Skittle guzzlers at this level? You see, they're not producers, they're recruiters, so they have to recruit. Netflix, social media, that's the mechanism of recruitment. TikTok, that's the mechanism. And the reason we have to go Taliban time and have men at the leadership is because we are the ones that draw the line in the sand of morality. Now, I say that to say this. The black male is in great disrepair because we were the number one target for attack. They viewed us, the white liberals, those who influence media, they viewed us as a revolutionary group. You can look at programs like COINTELPRO. We've always been seen as a revolutionary group because we're so influential. That can do a lot of damage. And we're also viewed as a group that's hyper masculine, not only in appearance and stature, but also in culture. And this is in our blood. If you look in Africa today, there's many places where there's capital punishment for sexual deviance. So they had to reimagine the black male. We didn't reimagine, they reimagined. Then they told us who we are. And now you see those boys in Atlanta wearing skinny jeans. Like, damn, you're sagging and you're still wearing skinny jeans? This is crazy. Oh, you got a purse with it too, my boy? It's getting crazy out here. And so now we find that the black man is no longer a man, he's a black male. And increasingly, the female is trying to drive him into greater feminine behavior, which should be easy to do because 70% of black males were raised by a black female who's been conditioning him over time. And even if you went to the elementary school, it has a great emptiness in terms of men in it.
Yeah.
There are men, they're mostly LGBTQ, and I know firsthand experience because I did a program called Teach for America that was overpopulated by liberal white women, whether they're literally liberal white women or they're like blacks masquerading as liberal white women, and homosexual males. And then they send them into the schools. And Teach for America, they were the origins of DEI and teaching about all of the different ways of being, and then they preached that ideology to the children and helped confuse the children. 8 hours a day while you're at work as a single mom working 3 jobs. So all of that destruction has been done, and it's been hyper targeted to the black man because they had to use these other tools to get us because we weren't the ones going to the
you got to pay attention to see that. It breaks down not only into the political culture, but into education. You know, how diluted or what a psyop that they've done on masculinity, and especially black masculinity. Because they're afraid of that type of, like he said, we're the ones who draw the line in the sand on morality. But they want to have, essentially the disobedience of the feminists, and then the what's the word? Conditioning of the feminine male teaching your kids in the school.
It was the black female. Because males in general are not performing in the educational system because it's female oriented. Why? Sit down, shut up, listen, and then regurgitate. That's great for females because their wiring is to be less tactile, less hands-on, less moving. Black boys are made a problem of in the educational system. That's why they call us, they say we have oppositional defiant disorder. They give us an IEP and they say that we're, this and that, put these labels on us. The original work on that was not Dr. Umar. It was from one greater than him, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, which is the guy that Dr. Umar bootlegged all of his ideas from. And that guy was productive. Shout out to Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, now deceased.
Wow. Man, I saw you on Instagram. You be lighting that Instagram up, man. Y'all make sure y'all follow this man on Instagram. I mean, lighting them up. You was lighting up some dude was asked you would you be offended if he called you a monkey, and boy, you tore that boy down. I mean, like ripped him up, man. Man, where you get that from, man? Who in your family? Is there anybody in your family that's like that, man? That's really quick on their feet with the insults?
Well, that's another thing in black culture. We play the dozens, and you as a rapper, that. We always been sharp with language. And in fact, I think in America, if you look at America's great orators, we're overrepresented as black people, right? The Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King. You ain't seen nobody put words together like Martin Luther King. I don't agree with his ideology, but he throw the words together.
He put the words together, but he had a clapback. He ain't had it. I'm talking about that street vernacular. Yeah. Clapback, educated. Mm-hmm. Like your clapback is it's an additional disrespect towards your clapback because it's calm, it's measured, it's well thought out.
Yeah, it's calm, it's measured, and if you're trying to come at him and he, when you not only is he insulting you, you being outsmarted, you being belittled. You know what I mean? So it's like an extra punch in the stomach because you couldn't have thought what he thought of because you're not as educated as he is. So it's an extra, low self. It's an extra kick to your self-esteem. Not only did he mollywop you in the dozens, but now you got to go do your homework on what the dude even said.
It's zero profanity. It's when you clap at somebody, man, like you don't really leave any wiggle room, man. Like usually that's wiggle room for somebody to come back, whatever.
Now,
but I just be seeing them, like I seen dude after dude after dude. I mean, you tearing them dudes up. I mean, dude after dude after dude after dude get destroyed, and I'm like, why in the hell is they messing with this man?
It'd be crazy. They still keep
if they know.
I'd be shocked myself.
Yeah, like why would you even like? I'm not going live with this dude, man. I'm not getting on your live talking no shit. Like where does that come from though, man? Like I got you, that is part of our culture and everything, but.
I'm assuming the same is true in Houston. Yeah, when we were young boys, you wanted to be a hooper or a rapper, or a drug dealer, a successful drug dealer. That's pretty much all it was. My hoop game was decent, and I was convinced I was going to be a rapper. So now, see, I never smoke or drink, and so I had to cut that off because you can't go to the studio apparently without smoking and drinking. So I had to get up out of there. But very early on. And also you got to remember, I was the poorest kid. Before I started hustling, I was like the poorest kid. So it's like, you wearing the Pro Wings and the shoes nobody never heard of because they're in Payless. And apparently you cannot save money as a black person. Saving money as a black person is out of the question. So when you already know they coming for you, like your mom then went and got you the Payless joints that nobody's heard of. You already know when you lacing them joints up, as soon as you get to school, it's going to be an issue. And then the last piece is, I'm dealing with the facts. And when I talk to people, I'm a very observant person. And what I figured out from my mother, because my mother's not the brightest star in the sky or the sharpest knife in the drawer, but she knows how to make her way in this world because she's never been afraid to ask for help. She needs some help, she'll ask somebody. And also, she gonna buckle down and be diligent and do what she has to do to make things work. And I believe in the ability of the black woman to thrive and survive. That's why I'm not worried about EBT wiping out black women. Black people have made it through a lot more than EBT.
That's absolutely
around.
absolutely correct.
I believe in them.
Yeah.
But going in knowing that you was gonna have to deal with people verbally, and me being someone who's very observant, hyper observant, and diligent, and I'm seeing everything. I'm gonna talk about the thing ain't nobody even ever said to you. You ain't even know what's wrong with you.
Right.
But you ain't even know what's wrong with you, but I peeped it. And the funny thing is, I actually got to a point where I stopped like joking with people, maybe around like the 6th grade, because I was like more so just talking the facts, and I noticed that it would break people down so quickly and so deeply that they all just want to fight.
Right.
So I couldn't even play when everybody was playing. I just couldn't even get into it because they gonna want to fight. Because I'm gonna go too deep. And the worst thing about it, because I'm insensitive. Like I was raised not to be sensitive, and I'll just give a note on that real quick afterward. But because I'm not sensitive, I'd never gauge properly like when you're really hurting somebody. So I never even just get into it. And the reason I was insensitive is because my family, the women in my family, were convinced that they had to make me a man. And I think in the absence of a man being there and knowing what a man actually is, they use their imagination. Mm-hmm. And in their imagination, a man had to be super strong and very resilient and very tough and very hard. And that's what they made me into, probably to a fault. And so that's pretty much where it came from. But a lot of these characters you see on the internet, they come with recycled things that I've heard before or I've anticipated. And the challenge with them is that I actually know who I am as a black human being, which most black people have not the foggiest idea of. And I also know who they are. And that's the part that is new. Most of us don't know who we are, so we surely don't know who they are. And so the last one you were talking about, that was a guy who's an Egyptian. So you're not an Egyptian, you're an Arab. You're an Arab on stolen land. And I can recount to you that history. Like, how Egyptian can you be when the Assyrians have gone through there, the Greeks have gone through there, the Romans have gone through there, the Arabs have gone through there. You had 5 civilizations conquer you, and you think that you are the original people that were in Kemet? Give me a break. And then they say things like, you're a monkey. You're like, oh, well, this is not a new one. They've been saying this for hundreds of years. And, the funnier thing, they used to call us the Neanderthals. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. And then they found out we don't have Neanderthal DNA. They do. So these are the things that I expect. I already know what they're going to say, and I know who they are. And what I do, same thing I've always been doing, I just talk the facts. I just tell them who they are.
Right.
Bet.
Now talk about Fletch app.
Man, that one ended in about 2021. It's a software business that I created that took me around the world. The funny thing is that I thought I was about to be Black Mark Zuckerberg. Long story short, I created a couple software businesses before that failed. And I started off in San Francisco. I was working for a tech company. I was managing the Western Seaboard, state of Oregon, Washington, California. I made them a bunch of money. And I was like, man, I made you guys like $4 million and you paid me like $80,000. I feel like the math ain't mathing right. So I said, no, I think I got to work for myself. Created a couple tech businesses that didn't do anything, but it was education. It was my MBA. Then eventually I created what came to be known as the Fletch app, which is basically GPS for the indoors. And essentially our first application was to the higher education space. And we did automatic attendance, what I like to call effortless attendance. You don't even have to lift a finger. We have a hardware device that goes on the wall. It basically detects all the mobile devices in the lecture hall, immediately takes attendance, and it can track dwell time. How long were you in the class? Did you go for a bathroom break that lasted 40 minutes? All of these different data points. One thing we figured out, which I published in a white paper, is that attendance is the earliest indicator of if a kid's going to drop out. Why do colleges care if you drop out? Because you're a dollar sign. They want that money from the government, federal financial aid, cash rules everything around me. And so we built a business model off of that, did very well, had offices throughout the United States and South Korea and Puerto Rico. And right before COVID came out, I was flown into China by invitation of the government, treated me really well. And I was about to set up an office there with the only requirement, I think I had to be there for like 6 months out of the year, which I didn't mind. And they were pretty much like, and this is why when people talk about make America great again, I'm like, look, we got to get started. The Chinese, they're far ahead. They took us on a multi-city tour, the Chinese government. And every time we get to a city, they say, hey, this is the city that's about self-driving cars. You get to the next one. This is the city that's about cryptocurrency. This is the city that's about AI. This is the city that's about filling the blank. And each city gave a pitch on why you should set up an office there. And they would basically tell you, hey, just let us know what you want. You need a factory. You want your apartment in your office. You want a gym there. Just let us know and we'll design it. And you can also bring in 2 employees. A part of their Belt and Road initiative to center intellectual capital in China. So we got there, we got the paperwork drawn up to do a deal. Then I came back. At the time I was living in Las Vegas, and I came back. And I remember I was sick as a dog when I got back, and I almost never get sick. And I remember this like it was yesterday because we had flown back and we're staying at the Palazzo in Las Vegas. My assistant and I. We leave out. I live in Las Vegas, but I would always maintain a suite on the Strip. Because I basically just stay in my suite, order room service 24 hours a day, and just hustle, just grind. So anyways, we're leaving out of the room at like 2 a.m. to go get some cough medicine. Cause I just had a cough that just wouldn't leave me. And I never take medicine. And we're walking past the blackjack table, and Nellie's there, cussing out the dealer, apparently getting fried in blackjack. And my assistant looked at me, and I looked at her, and we kept walking. And when we got out of the casino, she said, I know you're sick. I was like, why is that? She was like, because I know if you were not dog sick, just to sit there and talk crazy at the table with Nelly, you'd have went and got $100,000 and sat down and just played all night just for fun. Because I'm just a wild cat. And I realized what I was sick with was what?
COVID.
Mm-hmm. It was COVID.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, the whole world shut down, and it crushed my deal with China. And I can tell you, I was in like the closest thing I've ever come to a depression because I worked so very hard for such a long, long time. And that pretty much crashed everything.
Let's talk about your book, man, The Black Box.
Yes.
The Black Box. What was the takeaway, the main takeaway that you was hoping to impress upon people?
There are a lot of things. I tried to write the book in a way that would be accessible for people who don't read. So you can read each individual chapter as a separate story, and at the end I kind of summarize like what you need to take away from this specific story. But in total, despite it being an autobiography, I wanted it to be a story that you read, and instead of thinking about me, you're constantly thinking about you. And I think people don't think about themselves enough in the right ways. Like, young man might ask, or even a mature man might say, hey, what do you think I should do? Like, what business should I get into? What product should I start with? And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me anything about yourself. Do you have kids? Do you have any education, professional skills? And so we don't think enough about ourselves. What's special about us? What are our unique things? What is something that someone will want to pay you to do, like you specifically? And so the book drives you to think about your own story so that you can be the hero of your own story. The good news about the book is that it reads like a movie, and it's all true facts. You can Google everything referenced in the book, and it's all real life, which is, I think, perhaps increasingly going to be a great value as the world becomes more fake. So the reason I truly wrote that book was because I had a professor when I was 16 years old, Dr. Beverly Tate, and she kept asking me over probably like 10 years to write the book. And the reason I didn't write it is because I was like, I haven't accomplished anything meaningful. I was like, I'm not a multi-millionaire, because she started asking me to write the book maybe when I was like 23. And she said the reason she wanted me to write the book is because I'm the only person she knows, because I started community college at age 16. Not because I was smart, because I was like poorly behaved in high school and I had to take a test to get out. My grades were terrible. It's a long story. So I ended up community college at 16. And she says, you're the only person I know who is actually a criminal and you successfully transitioned into real corporate life. Not as a rapper, not as an entertainer, but you did it the traditional way. And I want to be able to tell that story to Latino and Black kids that I teach in my English course. I want to teach your book and your story because it's real and there's nothing like it. There's this guy named the other Wes Moore. Shout out to Wes Moore. He's, I think he might be governor of Maryland or maybe mayor of Baltimore, I forget. But shout out to him. I actually taught his book to my students when I taught 6th grade, but the challenge is that when you're teaching, and Baltimore is a gritty place, and like 10% of the population was on heroin when I was teaching these kids. A lot of them don't have parents who've been raised by their grandparents. A lot of real orphans there, in my opinion. But when you teach the other Wes Moore to kids in Baltimore, it feels so hollow because bro went off to like an elite military school, boarding school, and not to put him down. I mean, your life is what it is, but he didn't start where they started. And so that's why I wrote the book. I didn't want to write the book. Only time I sat down to get the book finished was at the time I had an office in Puerto Rico. And that's pretty much where I was headquartered. And we had a huge deal on the table. You'll notice natural disasters. I don't know, is this God pushing me in a certain direction? There was Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria were coming. And the news will tell you, hey, there's a hurricane coming. And I had the capital to leave. And I remember I asked this Puerto Rican guy in my boxing gym. Puerto Ricans love boxing and basketball. And I said, hey, there's about to be a Category 5 hurricane coming. Like, should I leave? He was like, Papa, it's no problem. It's no problem. Every year, it's hurricane season. It's no problem. Walmart, they just want to sell the water. It's no problem. Papa, you stay here. You'll be fine. I 80 years old. It's never a problem, Papa. Every year they do this. It's a lie. It's never. It's just go around. It's no problem. And so I'm there trying to make this bag. I got to deal with all of the nursing schools on the island, the whole island. So I got a big deal pending, and so I want to stay there to push it along. So I decided to stay. All my friends are leaving, though, mind you. Like the business class, I was like, they were leaving. And so I stayed there. And the first hurricane was bad, but not devastating. Electricity came back on fairly quickly. I even reached out to my contact from the university and said, hey, are we still good with this deal? He was like, yeah, no problem. He was like, our campus is pretty much good to go. Wi-Fi's still working. We're going to do the deal. Then the second hurricane hit, and it was catastrophic. And I pretty much got trapped on the island. No electricity, no Wi-Fi, no hot water. My condo was completely destroyed. My office was fine because it was actually in a government building. So it lets you know how the government takes care of themselves. And I had a luxury condo, but it was completely destroyed. And at that point, in that darkness, I decided to finish the book because I didn't have any kids. All the homies got kids. You hear me? They had kids early, irresponsibly. And I did the responsible black guy thing, which turns out Pookie is a genius. We can talk about that another time. But I didn't have any kids. I didn't really have anything to leave. And I was like, damn, like God tried to kill your boy 2 times in a row. I might not make it. We don't know what's going to happen. Let me finish this book and just like leave something of me and my experience here on earth. So that's what I wrote at that time, and it was similar to my experience as a teacher. I wanted to create something that would make people's path easier. That's why I became a teacher in Baltimore, because I figured out that education was the only reason I got up out of the situation I was in. Nothing else helped me out of there.
And what made you get up out of there in 2 years?
Out of where?
Out of Baltimore, because you got out of there in 2 years, right?
Listen,
Like, I done my time.
Listen,
Baltimore
I
rough.
stopped teaching in 2 years. I actually stayed there because while I was teaching full time and taking a master's full time, I actually founded a nonprofit that basically gave wraparound services for Black families. And then I was recruited to work at a nonprofit based at Johns Hopkins Medical. So I did stay in Baltimore longer than that, but the reason I got out of teaching is because it was the most soul-destroying experience I'd ever had in my entire life. My good fortune is that I've always been a winner. That's all I know is winning. I don't know anything else. And when it all is on me, I'm gonna win. But when you're a teacher, your W comes from the kids performing. And I made them perform, and they did perform, but it almost killed me. You know, it
Probably literally.
Yeah, it was making me physically sick. A person who's been healthy their entire life is making me physically sick. And in my book, I write about
It was
some of
these
stories.
hardships, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it was those hardships from the kids.
It was seeing what they were suffering and the fact that it seemed like nobody cared.
Yeah.
I mean, like, nobody. Not their parents, not the school, not the government. You know, I would walk to school early, and be snowing. Make the kids sit outside. I had to argue with them to let the kids sit outside. Like, you got kids sitting in snow. Like, it's like nobody cared.
Yeah, wow.
So hard to deal with that. Like, I had
That pissed
people
me
that
off,
cared about me. Even my mom on drugs still cared about me. We got kids where nobody cared. Like, that's not a hyperbole. I had one kid told me, because when I would come early to school, like, I'm the reason they opened up the school early. I got there first. The security had to come early because I came that early, even though they were supposed to already be there that early. Like, there's this one kid that comes super early. And I'm like, bruh, why do you come so early to school? And this is a bad kid, right? Like, you don't want to be at school. Why do you come so early? He said, because I have to wake up and leave the house before my mom's girlfriend wakes up because she beats me. I said, why'd she beat you? He was like, just because. So I wake up before she wakes up and I leave so I don't get beat by her. And it's like you hear so many of those stories and you realize, like, bruh, no one cares about these Black children. Nobody. Not the people who had them, not the people at the schools, not the churches that they walk by, not the government that we pay taxes.
Yeah, we're in a mess. We're in a wreck. You know what I'm saying? Nobody is this come from what I said earlier. Lack of discipline. We don't have the father, the patriarch, or maybe even the family as the patriarch, setting the standard. We don't shame bad behavior. So the kids gotta wake up. His mom is with another woman, not a man. Right? She's getting up, beating up on him. Right? And all of this dominoes down from deteriorated morals. And I had never been the morals guy as a kid. But as you get older, you start to see how discipline, morals, and steadiness are the keys to building a strong society, a strong family. And when they deteriorate, you start to see what happens. You get poverty, you get families in disarray, you get rebellion against what should be obvious authority in the home. It's crazy. And the real sufferers, it's not us, it's not the adults. We done already fucked up. The ones that's really suffering, the domino effect is the kids. Because under other circumstances, like Marquez said, I've dealt with kids like that would be considered bad kids, but you don't understand what they coming home from. I used to work at Juvenile Youth Authority, Texas Youth Commission in McLennan County. We had children that was convicted of felonies from all over the state of Texas. all the way up to 21 at that time. And some of them, you know, you could tell, like, yeah, homie, you was going to get locked up pretty early. But others, whenever the parents would come up there for visiting day, you would be like, I see why you act like that. If that's your mama, I feel bad for you. If that's your dad, if those are the people that are in the home raising you, or those are the people you got your influence from, you know, it's sad to see. It's sad to see the domino effect of the it's just sad to see. You know what I'm saying? Just the domino effect of confusion and disarray. You know, one dude's mom came up to visit him in looked like some see-through, something that she would have just came from the nightclub wearing. No bra on. You know, hair bonnet or whatever, slides and shit. Talking about, I don't care who's, I don't give a damn, nigga better kiss my ass. Talking all this shit to the people that was trying to rehabilitate her son. Right? And there was times where I could see that the little boy was actually smart. He was about 16 at that time. But every time she came up there, I seen her twice. I was like, God damn, you ain't got no chance. If you get out and got to go back to that, like when people get out, they give you a list. You know, sometimes when you get out of jail, of people not to stay away from, you know, not to be around. What if the person that you should stay from around is your mama and your daddy, and they that fucking stupid? The kid didn't have a chance.
No one cares. And these kids, when they grow up with this amount of pain, they're going to hurt themselves and they're going to hurt other people. I know it. And I'm not a believer in, like, trauma, to be honest with you. Like, I theoretically had a hard life, but I don't call that trauma. Like, I call that life. You hear me? Like, life is going to have challenges. That's not trauma, that's life. But what these kids were going through, that was trauma. What I went through, that was life. What these kids were going through, I was trauma. There's one little girl, and I write about this in my book. I'm not going to say her name. But remember, I taught 6th grade. These are like 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. This girl was found in like one of the hallways dealing with multiple boys in a physical situation. And it's like, wow, that's so advanced. You're only 11, 12-year-old female. And I know, and this girl was a foster child. And I know that it's like something you're seeking that you cannot get. And this is the closest you can get to like human connection and value and feeling needed and wanted. And you know, that kind of stuff tear you up. Because you see the little girl in your classroom and she seems like a good kid, and then you hear about this happening and you wish you could help, but you know you can't help. I just teach history. You hear me? Like I teach history and English. Like I can't help you with these deep issues you have. The fact that you have no one at home, you came to school on an empty stomach, you're probably being abused by God knows how many people, and it just tears your soul out. And you know that no matter how well you teach English or social studies, it's going to have no real impact on the things that are critical in their lives. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd have never done it, to be honest with you. Like, if I could undo, like, and not do that, I would not do that.
Well, don't you think that because you did care so much and you did make the sacrifice and the effort, that you planted some seeds in some of those kids, man, that are going to go out there and do better than they may have had they not met you?
That's the hope.
I don't know. I get a lot of DMs from kids. Hey, Mr. Berg, like, I saw you on TikTok. I didn't even know that. I was like, that's my teacher. And, you know, you wonder what the impact was. You know, those are things you can't calculate. And, you know, shockingly, there's some really bright kids there. And in fact, I'd even venture to say, like, me remembering when I was their age in school, I feel like Baltimore had a higher percentage of kids that were intellectually gifted than what I had in Los Angeles, which is amazing with all the goddamn lead and the paint and all the things there with that old infrastructure. But, you know, I don't know. I know that they performed well on their test scores. I know that I was able to get them that, but that's what I'm so serious about. Like,
these single moms, man, and it's like you have to pick the right man. You have to be qualified to have kids. Those children were suffering. Like I've traveled all over the world. I've filled 4 passport books. I've been to, slums in Brazil. I've been to backwaters in Ethiopia. I've never seen suffering like that because
that's the biggest demonic thing about casual sex. And people that know me from the past would be shocked to hear me speaking out against casual sex because I was a motherfucker when I was single. But when you get older and you realize the damage that, having kids, having abortions, or worse, or having multiple abortions as birth control, having the kids without having a stable home, without having a father or a stable or a singular father, having casual sex, having a bunch of baby mamas and baby daddies, but no husbands and wives, essentially doesn't affect the parents as deeply. They pass that pain and that disarray down to the offspring of these fucked up situations that they created. And so it's on both men and women to get educated, get disciplined, pair appropriately, build first before having children, and not just having kids because it feels good to fuck or because somebody popping or cute or got a fat ass. Because if you're not prepared to direct that child, and you're not prepared to direct that child with the person you had the child with, then y'all are just doing the child a disservice. Y'all are making, giving that child hell on earth. It's wild.
when
So
other
much to
people
it.
around the world are poor,
And I'll be
they're
speaking more about that. I'll go deeper into feelings and information on what that actually does more on this channel. But just for right now, it's just like, I had to get older and wiser to see that, casual sex is tearing up our nation. But more importantly, though, you know what I'm saying, our race. As black people, we can't afford at 10% to not be building families and to be having broken families the way we do right now. To have our economics tore up because you can't raise a family if you don't have a head of a household. So the economics is all fucked up. You got two different men in the home. The authority is split. So nobody then steps up to guide and rear and finance the home. And then the mother has to rely on the government. And like I said before, the government just gonna flick you a nickel and say, here, take that little squirt, that little teenager chick and get out the way. We want the problem of broken homes. We want the problem of single mothers. We want the problems of poverty to go over there and get out of the way and not compete with the real economics that we have going on. So this is the problem, is they use the handouts as a way to get you out the way. It's your non-compete. And if you don't see it, you'll be accepting the handouts your whole life, thinking you getting something and you ain't getting nothing at all.
not violent. When other people around the world are poor, they don't have enough money to use heroin and meth and crack. So America's fake poverty, you have enough money to destroy yourself. The people who, they're not as serious as I am about these things because I've seen it. I've seen it from the cradle to the grave. Like, I know what's going on. And if you think a gradual solution will be a solution, you are wrong. Things are so bad. You know, they say desperate times require desperate measures. The times are desperate. I always say we're in revolutionary times. And the worst thing is so many people talk, they don't care. They do not care. I met many of the mayors of Baltimore personally, like the governors, mayors. I know a lot of people high up in politics. People wanted me to go into politics. And I realized that none of these people care. I know these people. The people who run for president and don't make it, I know them personally. They do not care at all. I remember when I was working for the mayor of Baltimore. I'm not going to say which one. I'm working for the mayor of Baltimore, and I was doing essentially data for the Baltimore City Schools, which is one of the larger school districts in the country. And you know, I had a finding that I brought to the attention of one of the higher ups, and they're kind of like, "Oh, that's really bad. Don't tell anybody about that." And I distinctly remember my entire time with the mayor's office, and I only saw them get passionate one time about one issue, which was who's going to get the box seats for the Ravens. You know, who gonna get these box seats? Like, they were lobbying each other and negotiating, like, deeply passionate.
And they give a shit about that.
And, you know, people sometimes say, you know, you sound harsh, or you're not compromising, you're inflexible.
Yeah, it's not time to be friendly.
Because the problems are very serious. I care enough. And some of the people who think they know the answers, they don't know the answers. Some of the people who would be the solution are actually the enemy.
And some of the people who actually know the answers are not going to do anything about it. They know the answers.
And so Marquette is kind of like myself. It's kind of like one of those persons that wish they didn't either know as much or feel as much. Sometimes ignorance is bliss when it comes to, you know, the way the world breaks down and how bad things are, especially when it comes to your own people. And you kind of wish you could be ignorant and blissful as everybody else. But because you see things the way you see it, and because you see how urgent and desperate our situation is, it's hard to just kind of, you know, it's hard to go along with it. You know, so I kind of feel Marquette in that it's hard to not get emotional. It's hard to not be militant because you're the only one, it seems like, or very few, that really get how urgent it is that we fix, you know, the direction that we're going as a people. You know, playtime over with. You know, very few things are funny to you that's funny to even people in your family. Oh, that's, you know, the things that they do, some of the things that they entertain themselves with just don't entertain you. You see the bullshit behind a lot of things. You see the con behind a lot of things. And, you know what I'm saying? It's not, you know, like I said, ignorance sometimes can be bliss. You know, and he and I don't have the luxury, you know, of remaining ignorant and remaining blissful. You know, we see things that need to be fixed. We see the urgency of the things that need to be fixed economically, education-wise, you know, mate selection-wise, strategic-wise. And, you know what I'm saying, it's hard to deal with without indeed getting emotional. Like I said, we've got some similar background. He said he taught school. I was a correction officer with troubled youth as well. And it used to piss me off to see, you know, that, you know, all the side issues that were important to the county and how they pretended to give a fuck about these kids, but they really didn't.
Put the effort in to come up with the solution, you know. And to your point about, you know, how people in other parts of the world are poor, but they're not violent, they don't become criminals. Yeah. Man, I lived in Azerbaijan and I saw that firsthand. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you have to travel. You got to get outside of the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Was you in Baku?
I was in Baku.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for example, so Baku at the time was a city of 4,000 people. Okay. I mean, 4 million people.
Okay.
By comparison, Houston have about 4 million people, right? At that time. Around that time, Houston was averaging about 15 murders a week.
Okay, that's a lot.
By comparison, Baku was averaging about 1 murder a month.
Mm.
a month.
Right.
And when it did happen, it was usually something domestic, right?
Yeah.
Husband and wife got into it or something like that, you know. But you would not see all this crime and stuff going on. Like women, I would see women walking the street sometimes at 2:00 a.m., 4:00. You know, maybe I'm coming from a club or some event.
Yeah.
And I would, you know, we're going. We might be like on the countryside or something. Man, you can see women just walking down the street at 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, fully dressed in provocative clothes and everything. The clothes are contoured, and they nobody would try to harm them. They did not have rapes and all that shit going on. In the U.S., you know how that go.
Yeah.
And I would see men lining the streets, like we'd have like Mexicans primarily in Houston lining the streets, like at not lining the streets, but lined up at Home Depot or the gas station or whatever. You might see a cluster of 20 men or so.
Yeah.
But in Baku, that would be hundreds of men lining the streets on both sides for about a good maybe quarter of a mile. And then it stopped and then it pick up again a mile later or 2 miles later. Over here you see another 50 men over here, another 100, and they would all have suits on.
Okay.
Now the suits were not in the best condition, but the fact that they had enough pride to put a suit on and they were ready for any job that was offered to them. They were dressed, they were ready to go. They was dressed whether they got a job digging a ditch, you know, or a job delivering files at a, you know, in a business, you know, whatever. They were just ready, man.
Yes, sir.
And they were very respectful. A guy, one time I was on my way home and I look and I see this guy getting beat up, right? And I tell my driver, hey man, go back and find out what happened. Because they were whooping his ass. It was like the whole little neighborhood was whooping on. It was like little kids was kicking them.
Yeah, it was a team effort.
Grown men were boop, boop, boop. And I saw an old lady, women was hitting them, and I saw an old lady that had a broomstick hitting them in slow motion.
Yeah.
Bam. Bam. So I'm like, damn, what the hell going on? Because I had never seen anything like that in that country before, right? He leaves, he drops me off, he comes back a good hour later, he said, yeah, that guy, he had, you know, he beat up his girlfriend, and so the neighborhood
got on his ass.
The neighborhood jumped.
The neighborhood jumped.
The tribe.
They do not play that shit.
Yeah.
Like you ain't finna, like in Houston, around the United States, is mind your business.
Yeah.
Dude, Jack is warming up in he'll beat his woman up in the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, smack his woman on the bus or whatever, on the train.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, but it's the culture, and it's indicative of, you know, the government, because everything starts at the top and it trickles down to the bottom, you know. And we know that a lot of this, you know, you'll have people say, well, you know, it starts at home, and you're absolutely right. It does start at home, right? But the government does not make things any better for those who don't have direction.
Okay.
You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. Because some of us, you know, we do have stewardship over our emotions. We understand, you know, how to behave in a civilized manner. But for those who don't, the answer, it seems like to me, is not a plausible way to deal with those of us who ain't necessarily civilized, or those of us who ain't necessarily in control of our emotions. It's everything is lock 'em up, throw away the key.
Right.
And we're not. And to your point about what was going on in Baltimore when you was a teacher, it's those social resources. We need those.
Yeah.
We need those social resources because the way things are going right now, man. I mean, when we talk about such and such days are numbered, that person's our days as a society is numbered. You being a teacher and going through like one of the toughest like school districts, in the whole country. I'm pretty sure, you saved somebody because it was a teacher that saved me. Miss Emmett Oliver.
Okay, shout out to Miss Emmett.
Emma Oliver. I said Emmett.
Okay, Emma Oliver. Okay.
Emma Oliver.
Yes, sir.
Was my homeroom teacher, my science teacher, and that woman, like she looked after me. I didn't go to her house. She didn't buy me school clothes. She didn't buy me school supplies.
Put on the blind side, huh?
But what she did, she invested in my self-esteem. She invested in my self-esteem. And that's what a lot of these kids need, and that's what a lot of them are missing because you got kids every day, man, they being told that they ain't nothing. Their own mama saying, I wish I never had you.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't know who their dad is, and things like that.
So, a ton. Even the ones that think they know, sometimes don't know.
Yeah. What was the worst case of a child going through something you saw while you was teaching in Baltimore?
Oh, man. You already got me looking bad out here, bro. Like, this man's crying on camera, this guy. The worst thing I've seen kids go through there? Oh, who knows? There's a lot of stories. I think that I could have wrote a book just about that, which is why I stopped. After I completed the 2 years, that's why I didn't do it again. I think the worst stories were the girls, to be honest with you. Because pretty much the girls had to endure whatever the boys had to endure, including, violence and all this other stuff, plus the additional sexual abuse that is more common to happen to female children. And so I think that was probably the toughest one. And a lot of this stuff there was one situation that, and I write about this in my book, The Black Box, and this was trippy to hear this conversation. What they do is in these resource-deprived schools, they'll hire newbies like me from Teach for America. Now imagine you hire some snot-nosed kid who just got out of Harvard or Yale to deal with black kids in Baltimore. That's crazy.
Yeah, so much is the same thing in the school system. They hire these college females, usually liberal college, white females, almost as a setup to teach, a class full of black kids, and then we're saying they can't handle the kids are bad, the kids need to be on really and all that shit, but they don't have any culture there teaching the kid anything that matches their culture.
And then you
people just filling in the blanks and checking the box.
Shout out to the Filipino people, lovely people, very friendly, very polite, but probably are not going to be well equipped to deal with urban kids in Baltimore. And then you got a couple old black women teaching who have been there since the school opened, and they're the glue that holds that place together. They understand all the dynamics. I remember one time I heard a story, and I almost never went to the teacher's lounge. I went one time and never again. I walked in there, and they're talking about this child. Oh, I remember the worst story I'm going to tell you right after this. But they're talking about this little girl, and everyone was pretty much saying, like, yeah, we need to report this to whatever the ADFC or CD, Child Protective Services, whoever. We need to report this. And then the old black woman came over and said, for what? And everyone turned to her with horror, including myself. Like, yo, what you want? She was like, for what? So they could put her in a group home and everybody could REPE her? So they could put her in a group home, then she ain't even got one person to look out for her? So they could put her in a group home and people just abuse her left and right?
Make her situation worse?
Leave that girl as she is. That thing may have happened to her, but she's better off where she is. And that, I was like, ooh. And it made sense to me because my mother used to work at a group home, and she would tell me about the abuses that the kids suffered there. And but the thing that was just most immediately stinging in teaching the children in Baltimore
There's one time there's a young lady and she knows who she is. And it was just so disappointing to see this. So I was teaching 11 and 12-year-olds. And her phone rang during class. And the policy was take the phone if it rings. And so I come up to her and give me the phone. And then she hands me the phone. It's like a flip phone, but you know how they'll have like a screen on the outside of the flip phone? It'd be like an image, like if you assign like a picture to someone or something like that. So I take the phone and it's still ringing. And so I look at the screen and there's a picture. I'm like, what is that? It's like a thumb or something? Turn it sideways. And it's an erect penis. This 11, 12-year-old girl's an erect penis. And this girl had two parents, mind you. This is like the one girl that had two parents, right? And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And it looked like a grown man penis. Like, I wouldn't know. I don't watch adult content. But I was like, this looks like probably like a grown man. And if they're calling you during school hours, like presumably, maybe they are. And it's like, more importantly, why would you put this as the profile photo? Like, do your parents not get your phone? Like, how are you this brazen? And like, what kind of pervert are you? Like, how did you lose your virginity? You're having intercourse at a level that you have a grown man's phallus on your phone. And I looked at it, and then I looked at her, and then she just put her head down because she knew I'd seen what, because I turned the phone on. Like, what is that? And she like put her head down, and I just put it in my pocket, and then at the end of class, I just handed her phone back. Didn't say anything to her. She just looked at me and looked down, just walked out. And I feel like at a normal school, and people are like, what you mean a normal school? They got me in a normal school where people care, where kids have parents, where things matter, where the grades matter, where all of that matter. Like at a normal school,
Right.
Instead of a damn war zone, I'd have probably like brought it up to her parents. But I ain't even gonna lie to you, man. I was just like, bro, like your parents probably know about this. Like this is so wild. Like your parents probably even know about this. I don't know. Just take your phone, just turn it off next time you come to class. That's what that come to. And I was just like, man, there's just so much stuff to work on here. Like, as a businessman, when my employees come to me like, hey, what should I focus on right now? Or like, if we're in crunch time, I say, hey, focus on what makes $1. Yeah, what's going to make $1 the quickest? Focus on that. All this other stuff doesn't matter.
But what you going to say if they come back with an ounce?
You talking about my employees?
Yeah, no, you said no.
No, I'm talking about my business.
Oh,
in my business.
Okay, I thought
in my
a random person came to you.
Yeah, no, if they come back with an ounce, and a lot of people reach out to me. People book consultations with me. I have had situations where people say, "Hey, man, I'm doing this. I know it ain't right, but I'm trying to transition out." I say, "Well, you reach out to the right person, because your pastor or your imam might tell you like, flush that down the toilet." I ain't gonna have you flush some perfectly good work down the toilet. I just ain't got it in me to tell you to do that. Sell that as carefully as you possibly can. And don't ever do that again in your life. But sell that as carefully as you can. Because listen, man, I've been there. It's very hard to have morals on an empty stomach. I got off the porch when I was 12 years old. Like I was really outside.
It's hard to have morals and values when you're starving.
Yeah, absolutely. So I ain't gonna tell you.
Misuse plus a bad dresser. Nobody ever told me I was special.
Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I put a gang of tears in my mama's eyes when she died before I got a chance to apologize. It hurts to see my little brother feeling the pain. It hurts to see my little sister still in the game. Ain't nothing changed but my finances, I still be stressed. All these motherfucking worries got a nigga depressed. I'm just tired. Every night I pray to Jesus rescue me from the poverty, hate, racism, and diseases. So the Lord said he prepared a place for me. And when he do that, I'm going to be free.
Still.
Yeah.
Bars.
Yeah, so, yeah, I get it, man. I absolutely get it. Man, but you have been moving the needle, man, for a minute on social media. Like, what is your goal though? Like, I know that you jump on and you help people with business, and you try to enlighten young men and even women.
Yeah.
But what is your overall goal? Because you seem like the type of person that'll be on social media and using it for a greater cause. Like beyond what you're using it right now for. You seem like the type of person that'll go do your own platform. Like, are you working on something like that now? Can you speak to that?
You know what? I've I left the software business in 2021. And I've played with it. I've taught a lot of people about software, which I think is the best business to get into, especially if you're ambitious and you want to make hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, you want to make insane amounts of money because all the people that have huge amounts of money, mostly software guys. But it is a very complex, rigorous business. It is the most competitive business on earth. And in as much as that's the case, I don't really want to go back into it. And for example, competing with, say, YouTube, it's really quite challenging because we don't have pure capitalism in the United States. That's why a guy like Elon Musk was able to get so rich. People are like, this guy's a genius. Some people say he's dumb. Both are lies. He's certainly not a genius, and he's definitely not dumb. He had a lot of government favors, and that's why he was able to springboard, which is amazing because he's not really an American. But I say all that to say, if you were to go up against a company like Google, which controls YouTube, you'd be going up against billions of dollars. You're going up against not only their technical infrastructure, which is the most sophisticated on earth, damn near, but in addition, their library. And that's why it's hard to beat them, because of the library. All your music is on there, right? If I wanted to have your music, I couldn't even get it on my platform. So I cannot compete because YouTube's great value is the library, like the 20-year, 15, however long it's been around, say 15 years worth of content. So it has become a catalog, a library, a reference point. It is today's library. So you cannot compete with YouTube. In fact, no one tries. And that YouTube should be broken up as a monopoly. It's the only platform that really does VOD, video on demand. You know, things that are recorded, not live stream. Now, in the live stream game, there's a lot of competition. There's Kick, there's Twitch, there's all these different things. People say that Rumble is a competitor to YouTube. Like, this is utterly ridiculous. In fact, I predict that Rumble will actually crash and burn. As far as paper assets go, I take a short position against Rumble. I think that they're that bad. And it's not only because they lack library, but also the user interface, user experience is pretty poor and it's not improving. So am I building something to rival YouTube, something to promote freedom of speech? It's a tough game. Even Trump tried to create Truth Social. It's a bit of a bust. So I try to stay out of software generally. I do have one software idea that I've worked on a little bit that I think will be highly profitable. And you know, if I can find another good engineer, I might push it across the line. One thing that I always tell people, health, wealth, relationships are critical. And my good fortune is that when I was in the software business, I had a lot of great relationships because building software is expensive. And one thing, you know, people don't realize is that the software industry is hyper liberal. Remember, Silicon Valley is in San Francisco. It's a very liberal industry. And I raised many millions of dollars in software businesses I've been in. And they've been private companies, which is part of the reason you say, well, what was the valuation? Like, no, I like to stay under the radar as much as possible, away from the government agencies, which I trust at some point will take an unnecessary interest in me. So anyways, I may build something, but a lot of the guys who are great engineers that I've worked with, now they're working at Walmart, they're working for these huge, Facebook, or they started businesses. And so it'd be a bit of start from scratch, but the most important thing is that it'd be really hard to raise money. And I was a money-raising machine. Like, when I was raising capital, whether it was for the kids in Baltimore, for the nonprofit I founded, or the nonprofit they recruited me for, or for software businesses, I raised much money.
What's the most you've raised for a single entity?
Again, I don't want to state that publicly.
But not your personal entity, not your personal company.
What I will say is on my Instagram, you can find me in a photograph with Mayor Bloomberg of New York, who we all know is a billionaire and very well connected. You can also find me a picture with many persons who are presidential hopefuls, and I've raised money from all those people.
Mm-hmm. Let's say a guy comes to you right now and he's in the gutter.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get out the gutter.
Yeah.
He got $100.
Okay.
And he said, man, I got $100.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give him to turn that $100 into 100,000, eventually $1 million? How do you get there?
Yeah.
With $100?
So I don't even think
and can you get there?
Yeah, the $100 doesn't even matter because it's not enough money to actually do something with. You'd probably be better off with $0 than $100. Because when you know you're at zero, the hustle level is different. Like the $100 you can't do anything with.
What I would have him do is inventory two things. Inventory number one, what are the things that you're really good at that other people care about? You know, people, they tell lies. For example, people might say, if you're passionate, the money will come. This is nonsense. Like, my brother was passionate about masturbating and playing video games. He never got rich off of either, right? Like, that's crazy. Nigga play video games all day. Like, you don't get rich off of what you're passionate about. You get rich off of what other people are passionate about you doing for them. Mm-hmm. And I got to start, like, in everything I say, you know, intellectually, I need intellectual protection. Everybody keeps stealing my words, but I'd say inventory what people ask, like, hey, Willie, can you do this? Or, hey, Willie, can you sing that one song I heard you sing? Or, like, hey, Willie, was that poetry you were saying on the pod? Like, whatever people are asking of you consistently, that's what you're great at. Identify those things, and then let's figure out how do we monetize them. That's number one. Another thing to inventory is, who do you know? And who do you know that knows someone? And it's not that people like to say, oh, it's all about who you know. No. It's about who knows you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you can know Marquette.
Right.
And you probably can't get him on the phone.
Right.
You know, you can't get him, you know, you can know him. You can't get him on the phone. But then he know you. Mm-hmm. Because if he knows you, then maybe you can get something done. Maybe you can use his resources or whatever. But if you don't know them, then it doesn't matter that who they are, that they know you and all that.
Absolutely.
Kind of stuff. That doesn't matter.
So you got to put in work. And the third thing I would say is come with an offer, not a request.
Absolutely.
An offer, not a request.
Strong.
Show up.
I'm gonna let him expound on it, but you know, I've you know, dealt with that as well. When you're dealing with people in business, concentrate on, think of what they need first. Figure out how to come up with a win-win, where your request also becomes a win for them and a win for you. Because people respect you for one, and they'll do business with you for two, when you come in with something that fixes, that not only will address something that you need from them, but will fix an issue that they're dealing with as well. Don't come with your hand out begging, you know, with nothing to offer, just needing help. That's off-putting, all the way up and down the ladder. You're not gonna get your way in simply with sympathy and ask for a request. You get your way in by you being useful. You get your way in with people that will give you capital, people that will fund your enterprise. You get in by coming to the party, coming to the situation, networking, and being the type of person that brings solutions. It's how you show confidence, and it's how people become trusting in you to invest in you.
Need to put in some work. Don't show up like asking for stuff.
Asking, begging.
That's about manhood. That's about how you were raised. And you mentioned black men earlier, that they're so immature, like clinically immature. They're so effeminate. They're so weak. They're so unproductive. And we have to really restructure them. Like when I bought the plantation, I went to the local church, and I missed the service. I didn't realize I missed the service, and then they were like, "Come on in. We're just sitting here having a little bit of breakfast, and let me make you play. You first time in the South, make you some fried chicken and so on." And I was like, "No, we already ate." And they're like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, we already ate. I appreciate you." And we left and went to go eat, because I'm not going to accept anything from you. I've never paid tithes in this church. I never swept the parking lot. I never cut the hedges. I never done anything for this church. I'm not going to come here and eat for free. It's not a manly thing to do. And like, well, Marco, what do you mean manly? Should women and children freeload? That's pretty much what they do. That's pretty much what they do. They get taken care of. And you're the one that takes care of them. So I'm not going to accept any freebies. So come with an offer, not a request. And this is where most people mess up. Men mess up. Women can get on just fine with making requests.
but you have to come ready to put in work. So a smart person, when you do that inventory, what do people like for me to do for them? And then what is an inventory of the people I know, or the people I know someone, and how do these people that matter relate to what I can do that people would probably pay me for? I want to bring these two things together, but to get this person to come over here and help me, I need to show up and help them.
Yeah.
I need to put in work. I need to be somebody. I think a man
research them, figure out what they like or need, or what could fit into their corporation or business that you can bring.
Most men in this day, they don't have any self-respect, and that's why their name means nothing.
So considering all that you just mentioned, how does a woman properly vet a man these days? I mean a serious woman. I'm not talking about a woman. You need somebody to take care of me. Right. Give me $100,000. You got to make at least $700,000 a year.
You got to spoil me.
Yeah, you got to give me $50,000 every week. No, I'm talking about a serious woman who's serious about love and commitment.
Go to her father. Go to a man that she respects and esteems, who has a family like the one she would want. Maybe it's her pastor. Maybe it's her imam. Maybe it's a boss at work. Within the assassin, we have something called the Lady Saints, which is a group of women that are upright women. Many of them married, many of them have kids, and we really use it as a finishing school for the women. But we tell them, like, hey, if you're looking for a man, we got all these guys, the saints. These are upright men. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they exercise every day, and they're financially productive. All of them. We'd love to make an introduction. And if you're dealing with a guy, bring him to us, we'll vet him. Women are terrible at selecting mates, and it's primarily because women are narcissists. They can't see past their nose, and because of that, they are looking for themselves in the man. They're looking for themselves, which is a woman, in the man. And they're easily tricked. So here's the kicker. The worst man is going to have an easy time getting the woman. He'll lie to her. He'll inflate her sense of self. He'll boost up that weak self-esteem. He'll tell her that he's going to be faithful. He'll tell her he's a one-woman man. He'll say
and I say that all the time, is that when we're young, especially women, when they're young, should not be just picking their own mate. There used to be family. There used to be culture. There used to be the father and the uncles around the decision for, young women when they were dating. If you was dating somebody, they had to meet your daddy, they had to meet your uncle, they had to meet your brother. You couldn't just come and be dating a female and get no pussy. Not if you didn't want to have to deal with her family, right? We had that hedge of protection around, especially our women. The young men, too. We also made sure that our young men brought their potential ladies to meet the family first, but especially our daughters, because of how more delicate and sensitive young women are. And like he said, they kind of are not good themselves without help, without education, picking responsible, courageous, disciplined, successful, dutiful men. They typically pick the fun, popping, popular, flashy guy that ends up leaving them high and dry.
Beautiful woman he's ever seen, and she'll fall for that nonsense. He sells her a dream, and she buys it. The man she needs, though, that's the one she wants. The one she needs is going to tell her what the facts are. He's not going to be rude and polite or anything like that, but he's going to be a man based on principles and truth. And most importantly, because he's a man worth having, he has options. So he's not going to bow down to you, sis. He don't need to get on one knee to propose to you. There's no, I popped the question. Like, hell nah. And he got a number of women that are asking him to lock it down. So he's going to tell you the truth. So when you want to deal with him, he's going to say, hey, look, I'm living like the pharaohs. You're a gorgeous black woman. Smart. Got your money together. I'd love to bring you into my family. I'm going to have 2 wives. You could be one of them or you could not. Make up your mind. Let me know. And then she flies on. Oh, he thinks he's going to have more than one woman. Here's the issue. He told you the truth. And that's what you couldn't deal with. And because he told you the truth, that probably represents he's an honest man. So you ran away from the honest man, went to the man who lied and said, you're the only woman, you're the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. And then he does exactly what this guy did.
Instead of 2 women, he's going to have 4.
4, exactly. He lied to you, did the same thing. And he's broke. It's crazy.
Yeah. How do people reach out to you, man, if they want to touch?
Yeah, well, as you guys know, I'm at war with Google. They're trying to suppress this ism. But Marquettism is for the kids. Marquettism saves lives. So we're going to continue spreading it.
Yeah, well, we Google how?
YouTube shadow banned me.
Trying to ban some of his shit.
And basically, it suppressed all my content. So I don't make any money on YouTube at all whatsoever.
How long has this been going on?
They did it 2 months ago. And you know what's funny? I had a channel that had been alive for 6 years, never had a warning, never had a strike. And then it went from a completely clean account with no warnings, no strikes, to demonetized.
They didn't hit you with 3 strikes at all?
They gave me 2 warnings in the same day because I never had any warnings.
2 warnings the same day and the next day?
And no, in the same day. So they gave me 2 warnings in the same day and then demonetized me the same day. Doesn't sound right.
Because you know when they see a brother like this, and I like brothers like this, high-minded, intelligent, disciplined. You know what I'm saying? Much like myself, you know, as people in my life would say, you know, spent 8 years in the army, you know. So they see buffoonery. You can have all type of buffoonery on YouTube. You can have all type of sex. Sex material. You can have foolish shit where people are on there pretending to do yoga and they really, naked or whatever. You can have all type of BS on there. But when you got somebody that's influential as he's becoming, he wouldn't like me to compare to Andrew Tate, but somebody as influential as he or a Tate or something like that, they do everything they can to kind of just silence your voice. So like I say, you got 2 strikes in 1 day, and all of a sudden you demonetized. You know what I'm saying? So it muffles what you can get out there. But they'll have all type of damn near porn on YouTube, and it'll never receive a strike. But anyway, I like brothers like this. Willie D, of course, has been a huge influence in Texas rap music, the city of Houston. Shout out to him. I've always been a big fan of Ghetto Boys, Willie D. What he's done in music, what he's done in the streets, he's always walked it like he's talking. And I was very excited to see these two together in a full-length interview to talk about real issues. And so, this is a real treat for me to be able to react to this. I hope y'all enjoyed more of what they shared than what I commented on. If you enjoyed the whole video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna add if you haven't already known, I'm gonna add the link to Marquette's channel. You probably already know Willie D Live, and go ahead and like and comment and give a subscription over there if you haven't. After you've given a subscription to my page, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Catch you on the next one.
I had to identify the 3 videos that
They
they
did
did
like 2
distract you.
videos, and then cut me right there.
But
And it was 2 videos where I was having a debate about a topic I'm not going to say because in respect of your channel, but it was a geopolitical topic, and I was discussing this with an individual of that ethnic group, and I was basically explaining my understanding of the horrors that are going on. And they
Probably something to do with Gaza.
For harassment and cyberbullying. Now, mind you, I hadn't insulted the individual one time during the conversation. And then there was another video. It was even more petty. I was talking about confidence. There's another video I was talking about how to be confident. There's not one curse word. And then it flagged that one for harassment and cyberbullying. I wasn't talking about anyone or to anyone. I was just lecturing on how to present more confidence. And then I clicked appeal, and then it said that a human reviewer reaffirmed it. Now, here's the funny thing. I've hired a lot of lawyers for a ton of things. Reached out to a ton of lawyers. No one wants to take the case against Google. Isn't it curious? Yes. So it's been very interesting, and that's why I came to Texas. So I was in DFW
met up with SAS and DFW. We did an event on ground, and I've always been prepared for this. I always told people, you know, they used to say the revolution won't be televised, and I said the revolution won't be live streamed. So we've always known that we had to be on ground. And so I already have a movement that's on ground with sections throughout the world. And so we're activating that at a higher level. For those who do want to find me, on Instagram, Marquette Devon, Marquett Davon. On YouTube, you can type in, there's a great fan channel. It's called Marquette for Women. So Marquette for Women on YouTube. There'll be new content going up on that fan channel. And when I live stream on kick.com/Marquette Devon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marquette Devon Erden, the saint and the sinner.
Y'all take it easy.
Like all of us.
Get out of my face.
Right, exactly.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
No more talk.
Yeah.
Canva is not just great for